Welcome to Sprint Zero, Episode 3. My name is John Russell, and I'm joined by my co-partner crab in crime, Mike Gowland. Say hello, Mikey boy.
New Mike, who dis?
New Mike. Oh, yeah, new Mike. Yeah, well done at that. Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
talk about that one later on.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about user interface and design, but first of all, we're going to speak to our lovely guest today, Laura Webb. Hello, Laura. How are you? You okay?
No, yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Nice. No worries. Laura's a well-known figure in the Power Platform community. She's known for creatively merging her passion for technology with her love of art and design, which adds a unique and engaging dimension to her presentations and contributions to the Power Platform community. She has used PowerPoint in different ways in conjunction with Canvas apps and is the creator behind the amazing Tech Trump card, which helps to elevate and showcase the talents of others in this space. So welcome to the podcast. Hope you're all right. You good?
Yeah, no, I'm great. I'm good. It's midweek,
Nice.
so always a little
Midweek.
bit of a hump day, but it's a good hump day.
Yeah. I don't like Wednesdays. Sorry. Wednesdays. Wednesdays for me are. I don't like the start of Wednesdays because I have to muck around with the bins. And me and Mike were talking about this last night. Is you know all this kind of AI robotics that's coming out and stuff. They're showing them how they can like fold a t-shirt and all that kind of stuff. I want them to be able to take a bin out. When they can take a bin out, I'm going to get about 5 of them. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Laura, as somebody who is proficient at design, we spoke offline before the podcast about redesigning the Sprint Zero logo. I've had another go at it, and I just wanted you to just give us your opinion on what you think of this.
Please no.
No, come with it.
Well, I think it encompasses really what.
It gets the budget element because that's the bit that you were struggling with. You're such a consummate professional that you weren't actually able to deliver on the budget brief.
I don't really know what budgety meant. When you said
you shop in Waitrose, don't you?
Budgety, but budgety. That could mean so many things. But I kind of figured you meant simple. That's kind of where I went for. And
now you see this logo. Do you understand what we mean by budget?
I mean that's like another level of. I mean, why wrestlers? Were they wrestlers?
Yeah. So Craig White thinks me and Mike look like the Natural Disasters tag team from WWF. Which, if you Google and look, because obviously they were our faces. In case you weren't sure when you looked at that image, that was mine and Mike's face, not actual Natural Disaster tag team people.
I did get that. I mean, the budget look did help me see the distinction of the two images. So you're fine.
Oh, the layers. I thought I got the layer in quite.
Yeah.
I thought I nailed that layer.
I mean, if it's gonna be super budgety, you're not meant to see the. It's not meant to blend, is it?
What I think really helped also was the compression artifacts that you can see on the image. I think that really sets it off.
Yeah. I like the red text. I mean, are we actually using that, Mike?
Oh, please! I don't. No.
I think if our design expert says no, then I think we should probably
rethink. Okay.
Yeah, let's go back to the drawing board with that, John. Let's carry on with the show anyway.
So, Laura, first of all, I mean, we've met a few times at various different events and stuff. I think the first one we met at was in Stockholm, wasn't it? Was it Stockholm?
Yeah. That was the first one, and you came and sat next to me at the keynote. Thanks for that.
That was Keith, wasn't it? Keith's keynote. And I'd never met Keith before.
Keith did keynote? I don't know if he did. Wasn't it
I think so. Oh, maybe Sarah Lagerquist.
Yeah.
First, okay, yeah. Well, maybe. Anyway, so your journey into the Power Platform space. Do you want to kind of like talk us through that, like kind of from the beginning, really?
Yeah, you'll have to signal when you want me to stop. Like I do struggle to summarize it. I used to work for a military charity, I worked there for about 4 years, and I learned a lot in that job. It was challenging, but also really cool. I got to sort of dip into loads of different things. I was an Office 365 sort of SME type person in that charity, so I learned a lot about. Well, I already knew lots about Microsoft products anyway. I've been using them for years, but I learned a lot from like a coaching perspective, and sort of I learned a lot about SharePoint at that point, and I learned a lot about like troubleshooting and stuff like that, and also trying to improve the way you communicate to the users and stuff like that about how to set themselves up and all of that sort of thing. The pandemic came along and my manager got furloughed, so it was just me doing our jobs for about 4,000 volunteers. That's the amount of users that I looked after with Office 365, and it was. I mean, we all know how crazy the pandemic was, especially at the start. And Teams was like, there was like a massive rush to try and figure out Teams and sort of help everybody else figure out. And my job just completely changed. But in the end, I needed to really figure out a way of supporting myself. I wasn't able to get in it like very much physical support from other people or anything. So a colleague in the IT department mentioned about Power Platform, and I started looking into that. And I built some automation to help my job, like to help myself, to help the volunteers, because I used to have to set up the Office 365 accounts for like about 30 users, anywhere between 30 and 50 users a week. That then moved to like a daily thing where I was having to set up, I don't know, maybe 10 users a day type thing, and it was just getting a bit crazy, and it used to take forever. Like the process that we had at the time just took forever. So the automation really helped. And then I started thinking of apps to help with helping the volunteers, improving their situation. There was some account, like a need to tidy up various accounts that weren't being used and stuff like that. So I was thinking up ways of using Canvas apps and stuff to help with that. Then there was a job that was going. So the charity was split between the contract side and like the head office sort of main company side. So the final 3 years I was on the head office side, but I did start off in the contract part, and there was a job going in the contract part for Dynamics 365 administrator, I suppose. It was quite a high up role, and the lady who was doing that role and was leaving. So someone mentioned to me about that role, and I was like, oh, there's no way I'd be able to do that. Like I'm not ready. But I did, when I kept looking at the job description, I was like, maybe I could. I kind of do all this stuff in little bits and whatever. So like with some time and stuff, I'd be able to do this. Like I feel like I'd already had some sort of insight. Actually, she taught me how to use the system on the contract side when I was originally on there. So, but I was told not to bother by someone in IT. So someone like one of the people that was going to be interviewing, because I needed certification and stuff. So, but I still went to that person who was leaving and just asked for some advice. And she's now like one of my good friends, and she's sort of the reason that I got introduced to the community. She gave me some names. I think Andrew Bibby was one of the names, Keith, and some of the other sort of hot shots in the community. She sort of told me to follow them on LinkedIn, and said about exams. So I started studying for the PL 900. And I sort of there was a course going. Sam Smith was doing a course, like an 8-week course on the PL 100 exam, which I wasn't even close to trying out. But it was free, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll sort of get to know people that way and like learn more about stuff. So I did that, and I met loads of people. I met like Damien Baird and some of my who are my friends now from HCL, and I then got from that the CIT program at HCL. Like I got I heard about it from there, and there were some people from HCL on that course. So I befriended them, and I eventually sort of went to try and get onto the CIT course. And I didn't get onto it, first of all. They weren't sure when they were going to have. They weren't sure when they were going to have the next one. But the talent person I was talking to was like, maybe there's something else that we can get you onto. And I ended up having a 2-part interview for a learning consultant role at HCL. And I had to do a presentation on Power Automate, which I think I did quite well. But I had lots of other little bits of skills and stuff like that I could bring into it. So I got that job. And I was really chuffed. I was really scared, but I was really chuffed because I got into the industry. And then 3 weeks after I started that role, someone mentioned about the CIT program, and I was like, I can't. Like, I already just started here in this role. That would be terrible. But I spoke to my manager, and he was like, "Yeah, go for it. It's fine." So I interviewed for that, got over to the CIT program, and that was kind of my official joining of this whole industry. But before then, I had passed my PL 900 just before I got offered the job as the learning consultant, and I had also been to my first conference at that point. I'd gone to the South Coast Summit with one of my friends, and I did the hackathon, and I met Simon and Guru and all of those type of people, and I did my first hackathon, and I think some of you might have been there actually at that point, but I didn't know who you were. Well, loads of the people that I know now were there probably, and I did my little 5-minute presentation and absolutely cacking it. I'd never done a presentation in front of that many people before, talking about something that I only just about knew, and I never worked in a team before for this particular topic, so it was crazy, but I really enjoyed it. It was good. Yeah. And
so it sounds like this friend really launched you into the Power Platform space with that sort of initial advice of following Andrew Keefe doing your exams.
Yeah. I literally, she's wonderful, and we catch up at events all the time. And she lives up north, so I don't get to see her very often or anything. But we message and stuff, and yeah, she's, considering I didn't know her that well when I was actually working at the military charity, even though we'd been there for sort of the whole time I was there, she was there, but we hadn't really known each other. Now we know each other really well.
It's amazing you're still in contact as well.
Yeah, that's great. Really, yeah, I'm still in contact with my first proper manager as consultancy. Like, we're really good friends. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned when you were talking about the job spec for the D365 administrator role in the military charity, and I heard you say something like, "Oh, I was looking at it and I wasn't sure whether or not to go for it," and then kept looking at it and realised actually it sounded like you had like transferable skills from your kind of support roles into that role, which I find really interesting because it's quite similar to me. And I just wondered how important do you think those support roles were in how you are now as a consultant?
Oh, they're like the baseline, really. Like having done that role, I don't think I ever would have. My imposter syndrome would have been like tenfold if I'd never done the stuff at the military charity. Like, it was all sort of a very reactive job, so I had to I took over as dealing with the pages for Office 365 on SharePoint, so I did learn a lot about SharePoint on there. I had to deal with a lot of really unhappy people trying to get into the Office 365. I mean, the military charity volunteers, there's a lot of different levels of knowledge in that 4,000, and a lot of them were rejecting of Office 365, and our processes and stuff weren't top notch at the time. So I did work a lot on trying to improve a lot of that as best as I could. And obviously, because I was the only person at one point dealing with all of that, it's a lot to deal with. So I was constantly trying to find ways to improve the situation for everybody. And I was also in between like the IT team and the volunteer operations team. So I was kind of like this little tiny team on my own. So I had to learn how to communicate with both of them and try and use both sides to then communicate to the volunteers who needed their own way of communicating. It was
Yeah, it sounds very similar to when I was at the BBC. I was there for like 10 years, and in that app support role at the end, that was quite difficult because it was a web product that hadn't launched very well, and I had to kind of like triage all of these cases, all of these tickets, and I was really the only one looking at it. So it sounds like, although you didn't actually say the words, it sounds like there were elements around change management and user adoption as well. Maybe you haven't thought about that in those kind of terms, but it sounds like there was a lot of that, especially when you were going into COVID. Your manager got furloughed. It was kind of all on you. I mean, was it quite stressful, that period?
So badly. I mean, just before the pandemic started as well. So my dad passed away literally like a few months before the pandemic really hit off.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, thank you. Yeah, but so I had like 6 weeks off because of that, and then the pandemic hadn't hit at that point, and I just managed to start getting back into full-time work, and then it hit. I was like, no. And then my manager going off a furlough, I was like in a bit of a state at that point because I was like, I can't. I've only just come back to work, and when I did start coming back into work, I had to really. I was very thankful for occupational health because my initial thought, actually, during that 6 weeks, my initial thought was, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to go back to work. Like, there's no way I can do that job now, like in this state. But I did get back into it, and then, my manager going on furlough, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need her. But I don't know, I managed it. I had some friends in the IT team that were sort of supporting me as and when they could, just from a learning perspective. So I appreciate that. And my manager, because I eventually moved from manager to another one, there was a bit of a restructure in that area. So she was great as well, really supportive. But there was a point where I was really, really struggling with everything. But I don't know. I don't know if I then after that looked into the Power Platform and the industry, or if it was during that time. I think I was studying and stuff like that for it, so maybe it was just after that. But Power Platform did help. If I didn't have, I don't know, I would have been in a lot worse state if I hadn't started looking into automation and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's how me and you have connected, probably on that. Even, we might not know it, but I think our stories into the Power Platform are very similar.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. So you mentioned before, Laura, when you went to South Coast Summit and you did the hackathon there, and you actually got up on stage and presented.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Oh, I was Simon, bless him. He's like one of my good friends. Like since the day I met him, he's just been so lovely. And I was like, oh God, I don't think I can do it. I don't really like it. We literally, so each team were on for 5 minutes, and so there was so I literally had 1 minute to talk, and that was it. 1 minute on stage, like in front of everybody talking. But I was so nervous about it. I was like, I just don't think I can. And for ages, he was like, if you don't want to do it, that's fine, like you don't have to. And I was like, I feel like I should do it. So
it doesn't help when you have Chris Huntingford at the back there, like counting down.
Oh, Chris Huntingford. That was the first time I met Chris, and he actually showed me. He was showing my friend, but it was to the whole table. But he got like a new tattoo, possibly of Dataverse. I can't remember, but yeah, it's the first time I saw more of Chris than I expected to see on my first meeting with him. But
that's what usually happens when you first see him. He normally shows you more than what you expect.
No, it was a really good experience, and it's weird that I can remember briefly seeing people, like just remembering certain images of people who I didn't know at all then, and now I know really well. It's weird because I'm like, oh, I did that presentation in front of you guys and I didn't even know, we didn't even know. Like, it was weird, but no, it was a good experience.
I find like the first time I presented, and I think I was definitely nervous, but I think it comes from the nerves go away because you're so passionate about it. It's like when me and Mike have spoken, like when we spoke at Bletchley Park about that AI stuff. Yes, I was probably the most nervous then. I think Mike would probably agree. I was quite nervous.
You were
then.
hiding in the corner, weren't you? You were
I was
actually
hiding in the
nobody
corner
could
a
see
little
you.
bit.
You were actually leaning against the fire exit door.
Yeah, and I think I do things subconsciously to kind of, like Mike was like, there was this spotlight, and Mike was like, "Oh, you should come into this," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"This is Mike telling me to get in the spotlight. What's going on?" But yeah, and then there have been other times where, like, at the when we were at the Microsoft offices in Reading, and I did that talk. Then that's when you got that photo of me, which is my banner on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And like I love that because I really I really got into it and I was really myself. But then when I finished those things, I'm like, oh my god, I'm knackered.
Yeah, so
Like
am I.
it's like the adrenaline kind of goes through you, it courses through you basically, and then you finish and you're like, whoa, okay, yeah, I need to go and sit down.
Yeah.
Well, that felt like the first time I did a proper presentation. It was at the Scottish Summit, and that was shortly after I'd started at HCL, and it was about my journey in, or like it was kind of to give tips on how people can get into the industry without having the background and stuff. And I was so nervous that I sat on a chair not far from the room I was going to be talking to for about 2 hours before I went in, and I just sat, and I didn't really want people to talk to me because I was like, just I don't know, I was literally frozen in that chair, occasionally opening up my laptop just to check everything was fine, closing it up, and then just sitting there again, and people coming up to me like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, not fine." Just
Yeah, leave me alone. Go away. This is supposed to be a community.
And then went in, and I only had about 10 people there, but I had Christine there, I had Dave Burrell there, I had Simon there, I had a bunch of people. Oh, it was a proper laugh. It was good in there, but afterwards I was about ready to go. I was like, it was like midday as well, so I had like a lot of the conference left, but I just couldn't.
Oh.
I couldn't. I was like, I am done.
I mean, if you could choose when you did a presentation, when and if you submit again, would you prefer to go first or would you prefer to go last?
Well, I did first at the Microsoft offices in Paddington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually got brought forward to be earlier. Like, I was first, but I was then earlier than I expected, like an hour, and I was like, oh god.
That's the worst, isn't it?
Do I prefer that?
It's the worst and the best, though.
Yeah.
Maybe like... I do, in that it's over quicker, and you possibly get, I don't know if you maybe get more people in. I don't know. I don't really know if I have a preference. I definitely don't want to be like last, because there's a lot of people that have left, and I know like we're all happy for the like whoever comes. It's not about numbers, but if you do get like one or two, then, which is always your fear, then you're always a little bit disappointed. So at the start or in the middle, I'd probably prefer. If I was last, I'd probably be a little bit more bummed out about it. Maybe it's not as excited.
I mean, it's also, these day-long conferences as well. If you go to every single session in every single time, well, not every single session, but every single time slot, you're done in by the end, aren't you?
Yeah.
I remember I did South Coast Summit. It was 2022, and it was my first one. And I literally was like, I want to see this. And I got to like the fourth one. I was like, I need to stop for a minute and just like regroup, because it's so much, isn't it, to take in?
Also,
in
like,
one day, you need that downtime in between.
You definitely need that downtime. Like, I think because I've been to quite a few now, and I think that the more I've been to, the less sessions I've actually crammed into a day. Not because, I mean, I've always been a little bit disappointed. I'm like, I really wanted to see that one. But I also get loads more out of the conferences than just the session. So just seeing people generally and catching up with people. I love to people watch as well. And also I do like the drawings and stuff. So I quite like to just sit there and do a drawing of the environment and stuff and just trying to capture the whole experience. But yeah, sometimes you do just need some quiet time, especially at the South Coast Summit, where not where it is now, but where it was at the previous venue, where you could go up onto the next level and just there was some chairs, you could just sit there on your own and just watch and just get some downtime and sort of reflect on some of the sessions that you have seen already. I quite like all of that. And then there's obviously like food and got to eat and all that stuff, so you can eat with people and it's all
very important.
So nice. But I used to try and maybe get 4 or 5 sessions at the first couple I went to, and now if I get to 3, then that's a good effort. But yeah, you definitely need to sort of, and also some of them are like all clashed, like where there's like a bunch that you want to see, but they're all at the same time, so you kind of have to. There's a lot of admin that goes into like being an attendee of these these conferences, isn't there?
Yeah, and serious FOMO as well.
Yeah.
I had real FOMO about Scottish Summit. Yeah, that was painful, that one.
It was very good though.
Thanks.
me and Laura had a blast.
No, I get that, or I don't know if I'm going to have that much this year, because I kind of just this year I think I've selected a few that I'm going to go to, and that's it. But I definitely had that for like the Dynamics Minds last year when Paul and Charlie were there and I wasn't, and I was like, oh. And I actually had originally booked flights for it and then had to cancel them because I was trying to arrange around Paul. It's so annoying. And I then cancelled them, and then they went and I couldn't go. I can't remember why I couldn't go. I think it was money or job stuff, or I can't remember. But yeah, then seeing them chilling out on a beach, I was like, oh, too frustrating. But no, I mean, that one I would like to go to at some point. It might not be this year, but I do plan on getting there at some point.
That's the other thing. It can get quite expensive, can't it?
Oh my god, yeah.
That's the other.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the other kind of element that we kind of want to touch on is around, as you're on the podcast, is around user interface and design and stuff. And how did you kind of move kind of that way? And is there something in your background that kind of led to that? Something that you're interested in that side of things that made you kind of focus more there?
Yeah, so my background generally is sort of art and design orientated. I went to college and then I went to art college and then uni to do design. And then after that, I did just various admin jobs, but I was like still drawing, doing pet portraits and stuff. So I've got like, I definitely have an art background. When I got into the military charity, I realised that I really loved designing things, like even if it was just a form, or like the email templates and stuff like that were going out to the users. I kind of really enjoyed designing those, and even though we were thinking of like the user experience, obviously, as the sole sort of focus of it, I could still see that there were elements of my art sort of creativity and stuff like that coming into it. And the SharePoint site as well. When I was doing that, I was always trying to make sure that it was interesting but had the information that it needed. So I've always had that sort of. I think then I was like, oh, I feel like I could maybe use some of my art skills and stuff like that to do this tech stuff. So it was only when, I suppose Christine had a big hand in it. Obviously, she's amazing and blew up all over LinkedIn, and that I think probably spurred me on a lot more to think of UI UX design. But I think it does also. There's a lot of design elements in just the general build of stuff that maybe people don't realize that they're doing, like the wireframes and even just drawing out the wireframes on a piece of paper and stuff like that. Like, I think if you're making any marks, that to me that's like a creative thing anyway. If you're making marks on paper,
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
and I love color theory and all of those types of things. And I'm constantly probably looking at screens more than I'd like, but I'm constantly like looking at the apps that I use, or excuse me, my voice went weird then. Like the apps that I use, or just general features on the internet and stuff like that are interesting. And I kind of like the whole theory behind all of that. And I'm really interested in all of that. I like design. I like building things. I always have done. And I'm just not satisfied with something that's purely functional and doesn't look nice. So I'm kind of, whenever I'm building something or whenever I'm gathering requirements or anything like that, I am always thinking about the way it looks as well. So yeah, and I love Figma. I love Figma. So yeah, that's kind of how I've moved into that area. I wasn't sure if UI UX design was purely what I wanted to do, or if I wanted to merge the two, Power Platform and UI UX design. I think over the last 6 months I've discovered that I do definitely want it to be sort of within the Power Platform arena. And even if I'm not in a role that's specifically to do with design in that area, I'm still going to use it in my job. So yeah, that was a very long-winded answer to your question, but
no, thanks.
No, great.
I have an art background. Is the short answer.
TLDR, art background. Got it. So obviously, me and John are really into our AI, right? And now with the advent of things like Microsoft Designer, where do you think UI UX is going to go in your opinion, with the advent of AI?
So this has been like something that's haunted me for months and months and months now, because I was worried about my initial wanting to move or like to focus on design areas and stuff like that within this area, and that I was always worried about the concept of that being taken away. But I think people are more aware, or people are definitely seeing that UI UX design is important now rather than it just being functional. Which is great. That's like possibly the first step in all of this. For me personally, I'd prefer to figure out the UI UX stuff through the processes that are already there. But there are people obviously who aren't as strong with all of that or don't want to do all of that as much as I do. So AI helping with that is good. I think I'd possibly be more satisfied if we could just have both. Rather than one overpowering the other side, but I
think there is space for both.
Yeah,
I hope that's the case. Yeah.
Like I think in the way that me and Mike talk about like prompting and stuff, you have to have the ability to be able to write that prompt in the first place, and can be quite tricky, because you kind of, me and Mike bounce bounce ideas off each other all the time. So I think it will come to a point where the functionality will be kind of quite easy-ish to build with the help and augmentation of AI. But I don't think the user interface and the user design, apart from like an image perspective, I think you're always going to need people with that insight to the technology available and the connection rapport with the subject matter expert that you're building for. So in my view, I don't think that's going to go away. And in fact, I would think it's probably going to go the other way. I think it's going to get stronger, and it's going to need more input, in my view anyway.
I do think that so although I'm interested in the visual side of things, I'm getting more and more over the last year. I've got more and more interested in user experience in general. I've always had interested in it, but like it's something that I want to, I don't know, become qualified in if I could. But the user experience side of things, I definitely, I think AI is not going to, like gathering the requirements and stuff like that and knowing what solutions to put in and stuff like that. That's not going to be taken away from my AI by AI for a while, I imagine. But I also enjoy it, and I look out for moments when other areas of the Power Platform or general Microsoft products and stuff like that, when UI and UX isn't used much in it, because so model-driven apps, for instance, there are some people who create amazing model-driven apps and incorporating that consideration into it, but it's still got a long way to go. I think there's things when you're building, because you've got the forms, the charts, the views and stuff like that, and it's all really out of the box. So I think it's still taking a lot of time for people to really think about the user experience in that. Like I have been in projects before where it's sort of like, well, that's how it's built, so you kind of have to deal with it, kind of thing, to the client, and or they're trying to sort of encourage them or whatever to just deal with that, or sort of that's the only way, the best way, or whatever, because that's how it's built. Whereas I think even in a model driven app there should be considerations of the user experience flow, like how they interact with it and stuff. And it's not just model driven apps, it'd be like with bots and Power Pages and stuff like that. Power BI, I know there's a lot more UI UX design sort of coming into Power BI. So I do find it all interesting how sort of seeing the different levels that everybody's at, or like that it seems, obviously I'm just me, I can't sort of see how everybody's using it and all of that, but just from my single point of view, it's interesting to see how people are using it and how much of the UI UX design is being considered in all the platforms in Power Platform. Again,
nice.
That was really long-winded.
No, it was good.
There's
There's
no,
a good
no
answer.
such thing as a
Thanks.
long-winded answer on this podcast.
No, there isn't. Yeah, old long format. So yeah, I think one of the things that I really liked that you did, and it was mainly last year, and thanks for kind of like including me, was the Tech Trump card.
I wasn't included.
I really.
Don't take that personally, and don't be offended. It's still going.
Maybe Laura confused me for you, and she
Maybe.
actually wanted you, but she got me.
It's easily done.
It is, yeah. So yeah, how did that idea come about? And I know you took it kind of to a couple of conferences where you got it like kind of blown up, didn't you? Yeah, it was really wicked.
My proper nerdiness coming out at that point. So I wanted to do a blog. That's where it sort of started. I wanted to do a blog, and I really wanted to sort of bring people to the forefront of, well, mainly LinkedIn, because that's where it sort of surfaces. But I was literally I was like, well, what can I do about this blog to make it more interesting? At that point, I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to use the blog for, apart from the sort of interviewing people. But I was sitting on my sofa one day and I was like, I haven't played Top Trumps for a long time. Like, I was like, I'd really fancy getting a pack. So I like Googled Top Trumps, and I don't know what happened, but just at some point I was like, Tech Trumps. I was like, that's it.
Great name.
So I think I started playing around on PowerPoint and produced what looked like something like a Tech Trump card, and I thought, oh, this might be all right. This might be like, although people might think this is probably lame, I don't know, or like weird, but I was like, I'm gonna do it anyway. So I did Christine was my first one, and at that point actually there was a lot more writing involved. Like I sort of added in her interview answers into the blog script rather than how I do it now, where I just sort of lay out all of the questions and answers that they've given. But I don't know, people just loved it. Loved it.
But I think it's such a great idea though, because it is still such a unique concept, right? Of presenting people within the community like that. And actually, I was at Reading. It's the same event where John spoke, where you presented Chris Huntingford with his card. How amazing is that to have as a memento if you're engaged in the community, to have like that little Trump card of yourself.
Yeah, John was really upset with me because I gave Paul his one as well, and John was like, what about me? And I was like, well, I haven't actually printed out all of them. This is just like the first ones that I did. So
I only came here for the Tech Trumps.
Glad about it. But there's been a lot of interesting insights into just that general format of presenting people, like the stats, for instance, or the numbers that are on the card. People put a lot more thought into that than I wanted them to, or that I anticipated. The card is just a front for the interview in my head. So this is like a user experience situation, right? For me, it was just a fun way of framing someone. But there are people who are like, nah, I can't do a card because my numbers are going to be so low and no one's going to care. No one's going to want that card and stuff. And I'm like, it's not a game. It's not a game. I know it's got the front of a game that we all know about, but the card is actually not. I don't know if people would still be interested, I suppose, but I could still just do the interview without the card. If I was going to get rid of one of the two, it wouldn't be that I'd get rid of the interview and keep the card, because then it would be more of a game, and I don't want it to be a game because I don't want it to be competitive. I just want it to be a way to frame someone and show them to the world.
And I think that's really important what you said about the competitiveness. Yeah. And I don't think I didn't see it like that.
No,
apart from I didn't get my card, there was that bit. But, we'll skip over that.
Everyone's been saying can we have a pack of cards and stuff? And I'm like, no, because that's one, I feel weird about it. But two, that turns it into a game, and I don't want that.
No.
But even with the giant one, so I blew up. I was thinking, when you're at events and people have like an Instagram frame, that's kind of what I was thinking of. And I did like a little PowerPoint image of what I was thinking, and I sent it to Chris. And Chris was like, yes, oh my God. And I was like, okay. So I kept it under my hat for ages because I was like, I don't know when I can afford to do this or when I would do it. But then I don't know, I paid, it was more expensive than I'd like to admit. But
Vistaprint.
No,
was it?
No, it wasn't Vistaprint actually. I did look at loads of different ones. But I wanted like a whiteboard finish so that you could write on it. I also wanted it to be thick enough that it wouldn't just bend and crease and whatever, like in transit. And also so that I'd be able to cut out the face part. There was a lot more to it originally. I was going to have like Velcro cards and stuff to put for the apps and bits and pieces like that. But when I was working it out for the Scottish Summit, and I was talking to some of the organisers and stuff like that, we were trying to work out the quickest way to be able to get people to get involved in this. And you had to kind of work out how long it would take for each person to do it. So we ended up just having the pen. Some people drew pictures. Some people wrote stuff.
Some people drew inappropriate pictures.
Some people were passing it around to sort of write about the person that it was about. It was quite nice, especially when I went down to the ANS section. Your lot were just literally like, oh, this is about AJ. Okay, let's write this about AJ and blah, blah, blah. So that was quite nice. I enjoyed that. But there were lots of other people who are probably not as seen in the industry who were doing it, but they were like, what do I put? What do I put? And I was like, just put anything. It's absolutely fine. Just put whatever you want. It doesn't have to be like a catchphrase. It doesn't have to be anything super. But they were like, and they got really anxious about it, and that made me sad. But I was like, I get it. I'm starting to see why you're worried or finding this a lot more difficult than I thought you would. So it's interesting for sure.
But to have that as a way to sort of, I guess, dip your toe into putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I am.
To do that is
tech trunk girl. Even if they don't know Laura Webb, they know the tech trunk girl. It's definitely not how my mum was like, it sounds like you're making weird noises. I was like, Mum, tech trunk girl. I was like, no, it's the game. It's why are you associating it with that, with noises rather than the top trunk game, you silly woman. But yeah, no, it's nice. It's good. I haven't done one for a while, but that's because I've had a lot going on. But there will be some slight changes this year, I think, in the process, but I will continue them at some point. It might just be sort of mid-year, and there might be less of them produced in the year just because it does take up a lot of my time. But,
so you heard it here first. Tech trump cards coming back in 2024.
It will come back, yeah.
Yeah. Exclusive.
Sorry, giving me the giggles.
That's okay.
That's all right. That's what we like. We like having the giggles on this podcast. That's what it's all about.
Can't take you too seriously.
Hey, what are you talking about?
We're a serious podcast.
Not after seeing that logo, you can't say that. You can't say that.
I'll tell you a totally non-serious thing that happened to me. So, when I lived in my old place, I used to work in the loft, and I was on a client call doing like requirement gathering basically, and I had the window open because it was really hot up there, and it was like middle of summer, and I saw this lady keep going on mute, and then she started laughing, and then she'd come off mute to answer a question, and then she'd start laughing again. I was like, what's going on? And I got her to unmute herself, and I said, oh, why are you laughing so much? And she said, oh, I'm really, really sorry. It's just I'm being put off by the pig noises. I was like, what? And I was so used to it, but the house 2 doors down the road from us had 2 huge pigs in their back garden called Boris and Douglas. And they used to make like grunting noises, and I was so attuned to it. It's like when you live on a flight path and the planes are going over, and you just don't realise that I'd got accustomed to the pig noises, but obviously the client hadn't. And she was like, "Yeah, it's the pig noises," and I was like, oh, "I'm really sorry." She's like, "It's like a scene out of Deliverance." So ever the professional.
She must have wondered where that was coming from.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's why I had. And then most calls from then onwards, if I was up in the loft, I'd have to like preempt people and say, just in case you hear pig noises, there's 2 pigs down the road.
We can just shut the window.
No, because it was so hot. Next up, we have a section called Uncomfortable Corner.
Uncomfortable Corner.
The amount of times I've heard that and it still makes me jump. Okay, so Laura, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable inside or outside of work?
Okay, so there's loads, but the one that I think so community work wise, and this has been quite prominent over the last 3 or 4 months, especially. I've been really struggling with the concept of the work that I do in my spare time, like all the community, like the Microsoft community stuff. So blogging and drawing and submitting sessions and like going to conferences and doing like all that sort of stuff, and just generally on LinkedIn. I've had like a bit of a break from LinkedIn, but I've had a break from all of that, and I've been feeling really bad about it. Especially because you both know that I had like a really tough year last year, and the whole community like rallied around me to help me get a job twice, and it was really breathtaking how that happened. Like everybody was amazing, and it was so lovely, and really helped me get all the interviews and stuff like that. So I feel when I'm not doing anything to kind of help or share or do the stuff that people enjoy, I feel really bad about it. But I've been having to really try and curb that uncomfortable feeling and take some time to myself so that I can just try and mend myself and then be able to get back into it. I've been finding that really hard lately, just because I think last year kind of affected me a lot more than I originally thought. Maybe other people originally think. And I spent a long time last year worrying about what other community thought of me and stuff. And I was kind of gradually having any enjoyment sort of sucked out of me by the whole situation that I was in. So I'm trying to like regain that. But I feel really bad about it all the time, and it gets me stressed. And I have to have some people tell me sometimes, like, just to remind me that it's volunteer work. It's something that you do in your spare time. But I love the community so much that I really put a lot of pressure on myself to try and sort myself out and get it done.
I think as an interesting one, because like I don't or can't go to some things mainly because of like family life, basically, and having kids here and stuff, and that's just how it is, and I kind of have come to terms with that. Yeah, sometimes I might miss out on stuff, but I'm coming more from a place of like I've missed out on it, and not that I should have been there. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from, though. Yeah.
Yeah. I had that for the first year, I suppose. I was like the whole FOMO thing for conferences and all of that. But I've made like a bunch of promises that I get all excited and I really want to be able to do them. So like the PowerPoint tutorials and stuff like that, for instance, I managed to get one out. But when something happens in my personal life or just in general that's quite big, I just can't continue with everything else. I have to like really focus in on what's going on. And I mean, it's been a long time since I did a tech trump card. I mean, people haven't forgotten about them, so that's good. But I have had like up and down moments where I sat there and thought, I don't know if I can continue with all of that. Like, so I am going to continue with it because I do enjoy it. I just need to find all of that enthusiasm and headspace to be able to do it again.
Yeah, I think it's important to put yourself first as well in those situations. Like as you said, your community work is you do it voluntary, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be your best self, and you have to look after yourself before you can not before you can contribute to the community, obviously. But you just always have to put yourself first, and we're all guilty, whether it's through imposter syndrome at work, whether it's feeling pressure from outside forces to always give 100% to everything. And I mean, as me and John know, as family men, you just can't do that, and you have to carve out time for yourself. And there's been a lot of talk on LinkedIn over the past few months of, I know there's one guy, I forget his name, but he is actually not going for the MVP anymore because he has to give himself some time for his family.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very eye-opening post, and I am going to reference that in the show notes.
No, that's really interesting to hear, actually, because I've been thinking there was a time where I was kind of striving for that, but actually, if I got it, that would be great if that sort of came about at some point. But I'm probably not going to strive, mainly because I just at the moment I'm trying my best to balance my personal life, my work life, my studying, and I'm still trying to sort of plan out some sort of community stuff throughout the year. And my problem, obviously, that if something comes about and sort of throws me off balance, then I can't commit to something. And it's going to be the community stuff. I feel like when you're an MVP, you're almost, well, this probably isn't true, but the way I feel about it is that you feel like you have, like you need to commit to it because you've been awarded that and all of that type of thing. And I just don't think I'd be able to do it. But yeah, that's something that makes me feel uncomfortable. And everybody tells you the same thing, that you know that it's fine. But it's it still makes me feel, I still sort of feel like I'm letting everybody down.
Yeah.
So, no.
I mean, I don't think you are anyway. It was Jack O'Niran then who made that post about 2 months ago, and just saying that he'd been an MVP for 11 years. He's decided to not pursue it further. Just he's had there was 6 weeks of sick leave due to exhaustion. So yeah, it's definitely want to check out that, and we'll have a link in the show notes to that post.
Yeah, that'd be really good. I think I saw that actually, and I mean he's done 11 years, so I mean, how long do you carry on with that kind of thing anyway? It's like 2 jobs for 11 years. That's quite a lot. 3 jobs if you have a family. But that's something that I've been kind of. Also, I've been there's been talk about nominations for awards to do with the Tech Trump cards, and that's been like floating around my mind because I'm like, oh no, I haven't done a Tetron card for ages, but someone wants to nominate me, and there's going to be a lot about the Tetron cards in those. Or like even with work, like I'm that person that people come to for community stuff, for tips and tricks and stuff like that at work, and that's probably helping me actually get back into the community bits and pieces, which is quite nice. FSP have been really, I think that was probably one of the things that they hired me for, was my experience in the community. So they've been really great. I might even be able to start some sort of initiative at work to sort of bring other people into the community and stuff. So that's really exciting. It's kind of making me feel less uncomfortable, but I have for the last few months been feeling really, really bad about it. I've even called out to some people, like Charlie and that, just to say like I've been, I could do talking about this. Like I feel really bad about it. I'm probably making a bigger deal about it than I should be.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really interesting, the stuff that you're saying. I think some of it is kind of self-awareness, isn't it? And some of it is also about kind of letting go a little bit. Like you can only do what you can do, right? And
yeah,
but that's very hard to, because I know what I'm like. I'm similar to you, right? And I think that's one of the main reasons why we get on so well. But and I'm not very good at taking my own advice. So there's me telling you this, but I know that I'm exactly the same, really, to be honest. So yeah.
I remember someone did tell me, I think it was Will, he said to me, we were having a chat and I mentioned about all of the community stuff, and he did say, like, I think it was almost like a warning, like not a warning, but like you don't need to be, like, it doesn't need to be intense. Like that's not the point.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're not enjoying it, right? And that would be an issue. Like for me, that personally would be an issue. If I was not enjoying that part of it, which I think is a big part of it, then maybe it's the way that I'm approaching it. I don't know. Yeah.
I almost called him Will Huntingford, but I think that was because there's I get the two mixed up.
It's not far off.
Done.
Will Huntingford, the love child. No, that's what like makes me uncomfortable. But at the moment, but I'm FSP are really helping anyway to bring me back into that. And now that I've got a boyfriend this year, so it's kind of helping me to my little cheerleaders. I've got like more reasons to try and balance stuff out.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Laura. You can find Laura Webb, a Power Platform consultant at FSP, on LinkedIn, and her blog, the home of the Tech Trump Card Initiative website story. Links to resources mentioned in the episode will be in the show notes. Music today was provided by Ken Like Fit. You can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find in this episode's show notes. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been John Russell. Say goodbye, John.
Bye.
Laura Webb. Say goodbye, Laura.
Bye.
And I've been Mike Gowland. See you next episode.
Love you, Mike.